Hey, welcome to the Clive Barker podcast. So, episode 47, we didn't really finish reading Weaveworld like we had planned. I'm halfway through. Jose, I think, said he was about a third of the way through. But there was so much news built up that we didn't want to put it off for another week or two. So we thought this would be a good time to do news and feedback from listeners. So there's a lot of exciting news that we talked about, and we actually made a full-length episode from all of that. So here you go. Episode 47, new and interesting things.
All right, so the good news is I got my United States of America Employment Authorization Card in the mail the other day.
Awesome.
Which means now I think I can start looking for a job, which is long overdue. And, all right, so more good news is today I got this awesome buy that I bought from Dark Delicacies in, like Jell Howison, the guy who...
Yep.
Clive Barker has been there a few times and did events for him. He posted the other day a picture that had like a bunch of like Aberrat 3s, and he had like one of those B.E. Trice edition of Aberrat.
Oh, wow.
And he said, we've been gathering like Clive Barker signed editions. So if you're interested, let me know. And I asked him, so are these going to be in the website or are they available at the store? And he was like, nope, they're not available, just here. So I was like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in The Thief of Always. And I was like, yep, got one.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, so how much is it? And, it was like, well, you got hardcover first edition signed by Clive Barker. It's like $30. And I have an advanced reading copy paperback of Thief of Always, $40.
Oh.
So I was like, yeah, screw the advanced reading copy.
Yeah,
I went for the hardcover.
I think those things are overrated. I mean, it's not going to have any pictures, and it'll be paperback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably have typos.
What's that?
And probably have typos.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I was like, yeah, okay, well, I guess I'll go for the hardcover. It's like, okay, here's my number, call me. And I'm like, okay. So I called him, and I was like, well, the book is fine. It's excellent quality, and it's not dedicated to anyone. It's just like Clive's signature.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, all right.
Cool.
It was the first time I ever purchased something with my credit card over the phone.
Oh, yeah. He's a good guy, though.
I know. Kind of scary, though, when you're, okay, I'm going to need your credit card number, and then your safety code. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But I know it's, Del Howison, so he's well known. So
he gave me a ride back to my hotel.
Oh, that was nice of him. Was he the one that you had like Steve Niles was in town?
Yeah, and I had a broken foot, and I walked 3 miles from the hotel to the signing with a broken foot and crutches, and it was horrible.
I can imagine.
So he's like, why didn't you call me to give me a ride? I was like, that did not occur to me at all, but I could do that.
Right.
I should have taken a cab, but it looked short on my phone map, and it wasn't.
Yeah, he was super fun to talk to, and he sent it to me priority, so I got it today. Really nice. So I'll just add that to the beginning of the conversation.
Cool. Yeah. Well, welcome to episode 47. I call it New and Exciting Things. So this is kind of our all news and feedback episode. So we do this every once in a while. In this case, we weren't ready to do Weaveworld yet. I'm about halfway through. How far are you at? How far are you?
Yeah, I'm like 1/3 of it through. Sorry about that. It's a very complex book, and
Yeah.
Very entertaining, but at the same time, I've just had other stuff to do, which we will get to further ahead in the episode.
And I've always thought of it as a shorter book, but I'm finding that there are a lot of characters and a lot of names.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to stop and go, I should write this down.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically got a whole country full of like characters, right?
Yeah. Even that monster, the rake, has a name. She mentions it once.
Oh, I remember the rake. He's that guy cut in ribbons.
Yeah,
he was in love with Immaculata.
Yeah,
right. The surgeons, who are the Cenobites. So the Cenobites are mentioned in Weave World.
Yeah,
we will get to that when we discuss the book.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Oh, and I guess I'm going to add another quick thing. We can start on the news.
Sure.
So the first thing is Clive Barker posted about the Scarlet Gospels on Facebook. Mm-hmm. It was kind of an unfortunate situation where he was talking about something he was excited about. You know, a new print edition of Chiliad, those two stories that were originally in Revelations or Millennium, depending on what country you're in.
Yes.
And so those are going to be, instead of being in that short story compilation, now they're in a book all of their own, which is great. But then some guy commented, like, you know, it was kind of, his attitude was like, "What? I don't care about this crap. What about Scarlet Gospels?"
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, Clive wrote a long, kind of heartfelt explanation about where the Scarlet Gospels is at. And he said, Scarlet Gospels is in a large part written, but I can't find the 6 months. Sorry, that's my phone. But I can't find the 6 months it will take to complete it until I've finished with Abarat. It's a complex book interweaving many lives, many journeys. The most controversial of those journeys will take us back to Bethlehem on the night of the Nativity. No biblical testament dares recount what really happened on that night. The task falls to the Scarlet Gospels.
It's interesting because I remember Clive was working on a standalone story which would take place at the Golgotha.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be in like Tales of a Journeyman, Black as the Devil's Rainbow. So I'm wondering...
well, and originally Scarlet Gospels was the name of that book. And it was just one of the stories inside of there.
Right.
And then it got bigger and bigger, and then it became its own story. And the name Scarlet Gospel sort of followed the story, and then Tales of a Journeyman became the name of that short story collection.
Yeah, but it's interesting because he's using the life of Christ a lot in these stories. I mean, it's going to show up in the Scarlet Gospels. It's going to show up in a story called I'm trying to remember the name of the story. He mentioned it a few times on Twitter. I forgot. He said it was going to completely redefine the story of Christ. Oh, God, man, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
And I wonder if that did get absorbed into the Scarlet Gospels. Could
be. At this point, I have no idea. Yeah. So, but it's interesting. I really enjoyed seeing the cover for the Chiliad stories.
Yeah,
Chiliad of Meditation.
Cover. And I'm wondering, is this going to be paperback or hardcover?
I would say probably hardcover.
Oh, that would be great.
I'm not sure, but it looks like it. It says here, plans are in hand to reissue Chiliad in a standalone volume in 2014. With work on the project continuing, publishing details will follow. So this is the news as it appears on Revelations.
Yeah.
And Clive explained also on Facebook on 9th of July, which was 2 days ago, he said, Chiliad is not a new piece of fiction. I wrote it in two parts as the book ends to a collection of short fiction about the millennium. You and I talked about it on the episode about rare and rare stories.
Yeah.
Uncollected stories. But it makes a whole new kind of sense published as a novella, as it will be here for the first time. Unfortunately, very few people had the chance to read it when it first came out. That's true, because I never really read it before. Mm-hmm. So this is in many ways Chiliad's second life. I hope it is noticed this time around because it was an immense challenge to write and is easily one of the darkest pieces of fiction I've ever written. He also mentioned, it's not mentioned here in Revelations, but I remember reading also on Facebook that he confessed that he wrote Chiliad when he was coming out of deep depression in his life. So it's very personal for him.
Yeah, and
And I had remembered reading that somewhere when I reread those stories for our podcast episode, so it was a lot more meaningful to me. And I think when I read it the first time, I don't know, something about being more, closer to being middle-aged. You can really identify a lot more with those two stories than you can, than I could when I was in college when I read it the first time. He also said about Scarlet Gospels, Matthew, you're absolutely right. The Scarlet Gospel does indeed contain a code, the code of our humanity. I know it's frustrating when I take such a long time with my books, and I'm aware that many other writers produce work faster than I do, but I can't push my imagination to develop these ideas any faster than it does. I'm diving down into some deep places to find these mysteries, and it takes time.
Well, we know these things take time.
Yeah.
Actually, the person who has been editing the Scarlet Gospels is Mark Miller of Seraphim Films.
Yeah, and Russell also said that he's done some editing on it as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another interesting news is not a new book, but an old book. The Great and Secret Show has been available as an iBook. It's on iBooks now. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he posted it on Twitter, and I'll send you the link so we can add it to the show notes.
Cool.
So that's also really, really cool. I mean, I'm not a big, ebook fan, but, for people like you who use iBooks, I'm sure this will be a treat.
Well, so far I've mostly been collecting books on iBooks, but I've only read one or two. But
right.
I did get rid of the majority of the books that I own and replace them with those so that in the future, if I ever want to read them again, they're just I can just look at them on my iPad.
I don't like to read books on the screen or a phone for that matter. I don't understand why there is a Kindle for phones because I think that must be the worst way you can read a book.
Yeah, iPad's
bar
not bad.
Having a real book. But
iPad or Kindle aren't bad. But on a phone, that's kind of crazy. Those screens are too small.
The only ebook that I actually purchased and read was Nicholas Vince, What Monsters Do. That was the only book that I've bought and read on Kindle. And it was kind of a chore to read, but luckily I was using the Chrome app for Kindle Reader. So that was not too bad.
Well, that's cool. That's terrific because we want Clive Barker to make money on this book, and you can only make money when new editions come out.
Yeah.
And it's a great book, and more people should be reading it.
And in the case of ebooks, a bigger percentage of the book price goes to the author than, for example, mass market paperbacks.
Yeah.
Mass market paperbacks, it's just a few cents per book that go to the...
I think with the iTunes store, it's 60-40.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad then. Another news about Clive Barker is that, in case you guys didn't know, Clive Barker had kind of a flood in his house, and his studio got hit pretty bad, where he also kept some paintings. But luckily, he posted a picture to Facebook saying, "My studio is finished being remodeled. Time to make a mess again." And so he posted a picture of his studio. It's pretty empty now, but it's except been remodeled. And again, I'll send you this post as well.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great news.
Cool. So.
All right. And what else is on the menu?
So next thing, Midian Unmade. So this is really exciting news. Dark Delicacies, we were talking about that earlier before we started recording, but about Del Howison and Dark Delicacies are putting out an anthology of Nightbreed stories called Midian Unmade, and they're requesting submissions that are due October 1st, so there's plenty of time to do the story, but that doesn't mean put it off until October, but yeah.
Just take your time. Write the best story you can write. You have enough time for that because it's going to be. Yeah. You have plenty of time. You have a few months to come up with something. Just don't. My advice would be come up with something good. Read it out loud. If you feel the need to refine it, take your time because that way you will be able to submit something that's going to be your best. It's Stoker Award-winning anthologist Del Howison from Dark Delicacies, a bookstore in Burbank. and also international best-selling urban fantasy author Joseph Nassis. And they will be receiving the submissions. So there's a bunch of guidelines that they offered about the submissions, how to submit. You need to send them an email with a proper subject, line, and all that. We will add the link to this in the show notes. And it, like you said, it will be Midian Unmade, Tales of Clive Barker's Nightbreed. It will come out in the fall of 2014 with a simultaneous hardcover and trade paperback edition. And there's a few guidelines about the story that you can come up with. Do you want to get into those, or should I?
I think they said you can use any character from Nightbreed or Cabal. Mm-hmm. And it has to take place after the events of Nightbreed or Cabal, so after the fall of Midian.
Yes. This will pick up where Cabal left off, chronicling the lives of the breed as they disperse into the world after the fall of Midian. So they say, we're looking for stories of struggle and despair, of hope and sanctification, as the former inhabitants of Midian try to adapt to the world from which they retreated years before. A world that does not want them. A world that will hunt them simply for the crime of being different. And so, generously Clive has gave his permission. So you can also use the backstories that come out in the Nightbreed Chronicles, published by Titan Books, or you can just come up with your own original Nightbreed, which is always a good idea to come up with something original, to expand the universe instead of just keeping yourself chained to all the little characters that appeared in the movie
Yeah.
Because the Nightbreed were so many, really. I mean, the movie had so many different designs that are just there lurking in the background.
And think of how many people are going to do a submission that's a story about Peliquin.
Oh, God. Peliquin and Shunasasi.
Yeah.
You
don't want to be one of those in the pile.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's interesting that I think I can say this. I was talking to Ryan. I was talking to you the other day, and we were saying, so have you started something? And you're like, yeah, I have. And I was like, yes, I started something too. And I was typing away, and I was like, well, I was going to involve Baphomet, and you were immediately a second after I typed that and sent it to you. You were like, oh, mine was also going to have Baphomet. Yeah. And we were both going to be doing some kind of backstory on Baphomet and stuff.
And his origin and how he was, and how he was cut up into pieces.
So I was like, oh, man, I'm lucky that we talked about this because we would probably end up doing something similar.
Well, but then at that point I had read that it was supposed to be tales of after the fall of Midian, so I kind of scrapped, we both kind of scrapped that idea at the same time. It's funny that we had similar ideas at the same time, and then we both decided to do something else at the same time.
Right, because I guess, we can still come up with some flashback things. I mean, I intend to use some flashback things in there.
Well, and it's good to have mythology in your mind before as you're writing. So, there could be references to it or not, but it helps the story be a little richer, I think.
Something that's also interesting is that they will pay 5 cents per word up to 5,000 words.
Yeah.
With 30% paid on acceptance and the remainder to be paid after the complete manuscript has been accepted by the publisher.
That's what, $500, right?
Yeah, probably.
Or wait, you said how many?
$2.50.
5 cents per word?
5 cents per word up to 5,000 words. So that's $2.50.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Which it's not bad at all. I mean, I'm sure there will be criteria, and
I think the real reward would be just being in that book. But
I know. I'm probably thinking, if I do submit something, and if I am accepted, I might just, scrap that. Just use it for the book.
Yeah. The next thing is we've got a couple of Nightbreed screenings. So one of them will be October 22nd at the Egyptian Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, and that's Clive Barker himself will be there introducing the movie.
Yeah, he announced it on his website, on his Facebook. I mean, he was like, Midian is coming to Hollywood, and that's going to be interesting. The Egyptian Theater. I'm not sure. Was this in Lord of Illusions or no? That was the Pantages Theater. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know the Egyptian theater, but I mean that should be awesome. And so he said he and Mark Miller will be there. Russell has said since then that he was going to try to be there as well, which makes sense because only a few days later he was going to be doing another screening in California.
Yeah, the San Francisco at the Hyatt Regency in Burlingame, California.
Yeah, and what is the name of that? It's a festival, and it's got a weird name. Do you remember what that's called?
Yes, it's called the Convolution.
Convolution. Do you know what that's about?
Not really. I confess I didn't really know much about it, but I know that our friend from Occupy Midian, Cindy Cabal, she is going to be organizing it as well. So she told us that expect it to be around $20 for the tickets, and it will be on a Sunday afternoon on that weekend of November 1st to 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Craig Sheffer is going to be at this screening at the Convolution.
You think he would go to the other one too? I mean, might as well. It's only a couple of days later.
Yeah, well, probably. I mean,
earlier,
I think that Russell wrote something that said, I'll try to be there, and Clive and maybe some other guy from the film. So who knows? Maybe he's talking about Craig Sheffer. I don't know.
That would be great. And Cindy Somebody Cabal, that's actually her legal name.
Oh, you were kidding me, really?
No, yeah.
Awesome.
She was at the Portland screening, and she and Malcolm Smith. She told Malcolm Smith that was her legal name, and he goes, "I don't believe you. I want to see your driver's license." So she got out her driver's license, and it really says Cindy Somebody Cabal. So she had her name legally changed to that.
I didn't even know you could get that name legally.
Yeah.
Especially the Somebody. I can get the Cabal and the Cindy, but I didn't know that you could just put like Somebody in your name.
Yeah. Don't ever ask her how she got that name, because you'll be sorry if she tells you.
Okay. All right, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
So these screenings are going to be in October. Okay, so they're pretty far off yet.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some earlier screenings before that. There's going to be a 27 of this month, 27 July. There's going to be one in Duluth, Georgia.
Yeah.
Which is going to be great. I'm kind of jealous about Georgia because they're going to get 2 screenings.
I know.
They're also going to get another screening at Dragon Con on August 30. I'm not sure if these dates are confirmed yet, but that's I mean, not confirmed in the sense if there's going to be a screening, because it's going to be a screening. I'm not just sure if
which
days
day, because they're always over a weekend.
Right. It's that right, exactly. So there's going to be 2 screenings in Georgia, one in the 27th of July, sometime around that time, which will be at the Gwinnett Center.
And that one's a film festival, right?
Yes, Gwinnett Center International Film Festival.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be another one at Dragon Con. And for all you people out there who were worried about, I don't want to go to Dragon Con because, there's a guy who gets money from the convention and he's been convicted of child molestation or something. The owners of the board of trust stockholders of the convention have bought off the other guy who was a lot of people were like, I'm going to boycott the Dragon Con because of that.
And they changed their name, or they merged with another company and changed their name, something like that.
Something like that. I'm just not really sure. But for sure, they made an announcement, and they bought off the other guy. So the other person no longer has any association with Dragon Con. So if you were thinking about boycotting it because of that reason, then you can go, clear-headed. You're not contributing to lining any felon's pockets.
Yep. So that's all behind them, and they can do Dragon Con without having to worry about that guy anymore.
Yeah.
So cool. And then our next thing, Michael Plumides, who he's been on our podcast before. He's kind of the guy that put the Cabal cut with Morgan Creek. So he's been sort of the middleman between Morgan Creek and Occupy Midian in a way.
Yeah, he's been working with the vice president of Morgan Creek, who is James G. Robinson's son.
Yeah. So he said on Occupy Midian that there's going to be an announcement about the release at Comic-Con. So anybody that's going on Occupy Midian and saying, so when's that DVD going to come out? The answer is going to be hopefully at Comic-Con, and they're also going to tell us the nature of the release, or what it's going to be.
Okay. Is it confirmed then?
Well, Russell made one comment that said that the Cabal Cut is a separate release.
All right.
So I don't know if that means that Nightbreed is going to still get an HD release, or how would they still do a Blu-ray if it's only the Cabal Cut? Maybe they found the footage and haven't told anybody. I hate to say that out loud and get everybody's hopes up.
I'd like to believe that, but I don't.
It's hard to keep that kind of stuff a secret. I don't know if I could do it. But I guess if that's what Morgan Creek wanted, then they would.
I don't think there would be much reason to keep that a secret. I mean, if they found the footage, I mean, I'm sure that Russell would immediately at least do some kind of interviews to say that.
It would steal their thunder if they're planning on talking about it at the Comic-Con.
You do have a point.
I don't know. Everybody keeps asking about it, and people think that we know what's going on, and we really, we used to know what's going on up until the studio got involved, and and that there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way that it should be. It's just we don't really have the answers anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Russell's also pretty busy about other things, and he's a professor. He has a job. He's a teacher, and he teaches, at the university. So he also has a semester to take care of. He's got a movie project. Which is a Clive Barker adaptation, which we can't say yet what it is, but although we know,
I think he's even talking about two different ones now.
Okay, so two different ones. He's been giving some cryptic updates on his Facebook, and also if you check out his Twitter, you will probably be able to put the pieces together. But
but we're not going to be the ones to spoil it.
No.
Yeah.
So. And I'm sure he's got a lot on his plate. And it is hard to travel to all these places to do screenings of the Cabal Cut.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, having traveled to the U.S. for a few times and back, it's not pleasant to have to get on a plane and go for 9 hours to San Francisco from London and go there, spend a couple of days, come back. It's pretty harrowing.
Yeah, it's the same with Alaska too.
Yeah. So I really admire all the effort that he's been putting into this. I'm sure he's spending some of his own money as well, and spending a lot of his time. And I mean, gosh, so really, really appreciate the effort that he's doing here. But so. Let's see what comes out. I mean, we haven't had many news about the restoration process, or for that matter, about the supposed documentary that's going to be made. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. You told me once that he was getting footage from these conventions and these screenings.
I think there was a plan to do that, but I don't. But I've been to 3 of these things, and nobody's really been recording anything with a video camera, not that I could see.
Right, and I'm guessing at this point, if they were going to do something like that, they would have already talked to you at least. I mean, you've been to at least 3 screenings, right?
Yeah.
So, and you have actually been at the table with them, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's going to happen, what kind of... They mentioned, a possibility of some extras in a convention, in a screening that happened, a short time ago, right?
Yeah. Well, and
he
I
mentioned
think that there's a lot of things that were, Russell's ideal version of the Cabal Cut, which doesn't necessarily mean that that's what Morgan Creek agreed to.
Well, you mean about the Cabal Cut?
I mean about not the Cabal Cut like what's in the movie, but I mean what's on the release. How the release is. Yeah. Because we don't know how much, because Morgan Creek is the owner, and they're working with a distributor and a producer. Right. So
we're just a couple of fans speculating here, so please don't take what we're saying as any kind of fact.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that from what I've been hearing and from what Russell has been hinting at, and with this separate release cryptic, description of what the Cabal Cut is going to be, I would hate to think this, but I'm thinking maybe they're just getting ready to like do a limited release of the Cabal cut.
Just digital?
Just not digital, but probably like on DVD or something,
Yeah.
or because I'm not sure, because they do have the blue Cabal cut on Blu-ray, right? I mean, I remember reading when Russell announced on Facebook last year, I just saw the Cabal cut on Blu-ray. You know, thank you, Jimmy Johnson, for doing this transfer, and they transferred it from the unbaked, unrestored VHS.
Yeah, so, and then in that case, just having it on Blu-ray allows it to be as uncompressed as possible.
Yeah, and I guess as you know, reduce the amount of degeneration of the footage, which is already pretty degenerated.
Yeah.
From the VHS to the Blu-ray.
Yeah. So hopefully that they will have baked the tapes for this process, you know, for the Cabal cut. I mean,
I'm not sure. I would imagine we had Russell here not too long ago,
mm-hmm.
and what he said was they were still looking at budgets and budgets for that process, which was going to be done by this institution, which we couldn't really say the name because I'm not sure if they actually went through with it.
Right.
But they were waiting on budgets and stuff. So this was like, what, a few months ago? I'm not sure.
The quote that he had was it would cost about $100,000 to bake the tapes.
And that is quite a large amount of money.
Yeah, you have to sell a lot of movies to make that back up again, I guess.
What's really bothering me, what's my main source of concern, is that the Cabal cut will end up being just the thing that people are seeing in the screenings right now.
Yeah. There is that possibility. And my thinking is, and Russell had said that Nightbreed will be a separate release, but if they didn't find the footage, then I think that, and they're using the work print footage, then I think that they need to be together.
I think so too. And I would hate that, they would like make people like double dip on buy like a separate release for the Cabal cut and then buy like a separate re-release of the Nightbreed.
Yeah.
Blu-ray.
It doesn't seem.
If it's even going to be on Blu-ray, because I remember not too long ago, like in 2011 or something.
Yeah, all I can think of is that there's something that we don't understand, because, they must see that it doesn't make sense to put the Cabal cut the way it stands all by itself.
Right. So I would say,
maybe digitally, yes, but not on a box release.
Right. I would say let's just wait and see and completely disregard our speculations because we are just like chatting here, wondering what's going to happen. I'm sure a lot of people out there are thinking the same thing.
Well, and this has got us on edge because everybody in the world asks us about this constantly on Occupy Midian, and it's like, just July 20th is Comic-Con. It's that weekend. There's going to be an announcement then, and we're going to jump on it as soon as it happens.
Absolutely. I remember last year was Halloween, and, I remember, Russell saying, hopefully by next Halloween, we will have, big announcements. And we always expected that it would be like a release of the DVD. Yeah. I guess a lot of people kept that little thing on their, mental calendar. Yeah. And now that screenings are popping up in October, these people are thinking, wait a minute, they're still doing screenings, which were supposed to be over like in January of 2013. Yeah. So they're still going to go with screenings until October. And I know a lot of people have come up to the group, to Occupy Midian. They've been asking, okay, so is the movie going to come out? When is it going to come out? It's October. Even our friend Roger has posted like, okay, it's October. Where's the Blu-ray?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that, these things take time, and it's never when we expect it to be, isn't it? It's always like they say, well, it's going to take 1 year. You might as well just imagine that it's probably going to take 2 years just to be safe.
Yeah. That's the burden of being, of following this thing so closely, is that, there's ups and downs and, promises and retractions. And I think it's just going to, it's not, I don't think it's going to be October. I mean, I don't see how it could be.
No, I don't think it can be.
We could be totally wrong. We don't know what we're talking about at all, but.
Well, if my way to see it, it could be October if they just decided, okay, let's just put this on and slap this on a DVD and release it now.
Or just
without any restoration.
Or
but I don't
like
think
Amazon and iTunes and all that. Yeah.
But I have complete faith and confidence that nobody that's been working on the Cabal Cut wants this to happen. They want this to be a good release.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact that Russell wants this to be restored. I mean, he would love to see this restored to the best quality possible.
Yeah.
It's just that, it takes money to do these things, and I'm guessing they're still looking for producers, or at least they were looking for producers until a few months ago. So I don't know much about the developments that have been going on since then. All I can do is wait and be patient, because if October is going to give us a good announcement, then let's just wait for October. And in the meantime, there is still other things to look forward to, especially Midian Unmade, the submissions for a volume of short stories, which is going to be fan-written. I don't want to say fan-written. It kind of sounds a little demeaning to the book. It's going to be contributed by us, by the community, by people who enjoy this book, people who have internalized the story of these characters, internalized their conflicts, which have also identified themselves with them. We have people that show up on the group and they say, I'm also a member of the Nightbreed, and I really mean that. I don't like the naturals. So there are people out there who are, feel different. Yeah. They felt different all their lives. And I guess Cabal is a book and Nightbreed is a movie that calls to all these people to tell them that it's okay to be different. There's a place where all your sins are forgiven, all your friends are there waiting for you, and you can enjoy your difference, and you can bask in the glory of being,
There's one guy there's like, oh, I'm, nobody is as Nightbreed as I am, and the rest of you guys are all just meat for the beast.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yes, people, we do read most, like 99% of the comments on the wall. Yeah. And another thing I would like to say is, if there's any spam that shows up on the group, instead of just, I'm going to say it, instead of bitching about it, shucks, just send us a message. Say, hey, just link us to it.
Yeah, we have live. I mean, we do read everything, but we have lives, and we're not going to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning to catch something. We're all in different time zones, and we can't catch it immediately.
Absolutely.
There's 5 admins, but really only 3 of us are really active.
Yeah. So if something, 2 of us are here in the U.S., another one is in London. So it's just like if there's a spam post in the wall for a few hours, nobody's gonna get harmed about it. Yeah. Just send us a message and we'll get to it as soon as we can.
And another thing is, it's not like we just delete the post. I always delete the post and permanently ban the user. Mm-hmm. But whoever's doing this thing with the shoes, they're not just hitting our group; they're hitting all the groups. And they've got some method of having a whole bunch of different users, and they all have really similar looking pictures of themselves. Yeah. And they just keep on coming back and back and back and back. And anybody can add somebody to the group. Like one time I saw that same person, request again that with the same picture, and I declined them. But I'm one of 7,262 people that can add someone to the group. So
yes. So that's the catch right there. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, I was just saying that because sometimes we get these people complain, oh, there's a lot of spam, the admins don't do anything. We do a lot. I mean, you have no idea how many times we have to click a button to add people to the group daily, hide posts, moderate, reply to comments, reply to messages. We've been doing this for how long? I mean, a year and
a half,
3 months so
Or,
far.
yeah.
I think. Was it on March that this began? I
Yeah,
think
that's
it was
right. It was March. So
yeah. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
a
a year and like 4 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great. I mean, I had no
There's a lot
idea.
of the same questions over and over again too, and we
Yeah.
answer the same questions over and over again.
Yes,
you know.
I would like to address that because you said something today which is just hits the hammer, hits the nail right on the, it's when people come over and they say, what's the word on the cabal cut? What you said is perfect. The word on the cabal cut is this group. You need to get informed, and it takes a little effort to get informed. It involves just going into the group and reading.
Yeah.
Just look for stuff. You can even, there's a little search box that you can use.
Well, and the first pinned post is always going to be one of the screenings. So there's
Absolutely.
a starting place, and you can say, hey, if that's one of the screenings, maybe I should click on the events and see what the other screenings are. Or maybe if I want to know more about this, I could hit the About link up at the top.
Yes. A few days ago, we had someone say, hey, did you guys know that it was Ann Bobby who came up with the name Occupy Midian?
What?
And then I think somebody replied to it and said, oh, yeah, right, yeah, that's cool. And then they replied again, and they were like, hey, well, so did you guys know that it was Ann Bobby? Oh, you probably do, so...
Yeah.
And I was like, why did you feel the need to ask that to us twice?
I have a recording.
It's in the About.
I have a recording of that.
Yeah, you have the recording of that. It's on one of the episodes of the podcast.
Yeah.
So please, just indulge in the curiosity of clicking on those links at the top of the group, which says About, Events, Photos, and you can find a bunch of stuff that people have shared in the group.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it as, I'm going to educate myself. You'll have fun just clicking on the photos and seeing the things that people had posted, like people dressed as the breed, collections that people post.
And there's all of our pictures that we did with the signs, back during the early days of the petition.
Yeah. My name is XX, and I am a member of the Nightbreed.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah. No, that was a lot of fun. I mean, this whole process has been really fun, but it gets a little tiring when for a year and a half we've been answering 3 questions. When's the DVD going to come out, or Blu-ray? They say either one. Why don't you bring the Cabal cut to Siberia or wherever it is that you live?
And did they find the footage?
Yeah.
Yes, and did they find the film footage yet? And I'm probably sure that the answer on those is going to be no.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
and
I'm not
we've also
sure.
got does Clive Barker know about this? And
yes, absolutely. And sometimes from people who have been in the group for months, and they were like, so why don't you guys just put this up on a torrent or something so people can...
Yeah, or how about have you guys thought of starting a Kickstarter?
Yeah, well, we've explained it a few times that the movie is owned by Morgan Creek, and they're going to do this their own way, so nobody else can ask for money to restore the film because it's not their property, it's Morgan Creek's property.
And Occupy Midian, just to reiterate, is an official movement. It's not just the fans are the biggest part of it, but it's not just a fan movement. It's, we've got the restoration director is an admin. We've got Mark Miller, who works for Clive Barker, is an admin.
Yeah, he's creative director of Seraphim Films.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean,
and he wrote for the Hellraiser comic book.
Yeah, absolutely. And now he's doing the Next Testament.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can buy that comic.
Have you got number 2 yet? Oh, you haven't bought either of them yet, right?
No, I haven't even gotten the first one yet. I know I'm a terrible...
You can still find them both on the stands, I think. Because the comic shop I was just at, they had number 1 in the brand new stuff, and number 2 was still on the stand. Or, number 1 was still on the stand because it wasn't that old yet, and number 2 was the brand new one.
if everything goes well, I will get both of them this weekend because I'm going to watch Pacific Rim. And so I will stop by the comic book store, which is right next to the cinema. And, it's going to be great.
I really want to see Pacific Rim. I just don't know when I can find that.
Yes, for everyone who doesn't know, Ryan is a big kaiju fan.
Yeah.
He is a big Godzilla fan. And,
but I also have
been to Tokyo.
A baby that can't go to movies.
Right.
And
you live in Alaska.
We don't have any family here to say, here, watch the baby. We're going to go see a movie.
Okay, honest question. Are there any IMAX 3D theaters next to you in Alaska?
Yes. Well, we have, in Fairbanks, we have one Regal cinema, and it's got 16 screens.
Awesome.
And one of them is an IMAX screen. But you know how a lot of the IMAX screens are just slightly bigger than the, it's not like they used to be.
I've heard that. I've heard that sometimes IMAX is not really, really IMAX.
Yeah.
That IMAX has a certain set of, measurements and sizes that sometimes, some of the screens that are labeled as IMAX are not really IMAX.
The IMAX that I grew up with when I was a kid was like a dome, and they had a projector the size of a Volkswagen Bug. And it would project across the entire ceiling of this dome, and you would, be kind of leaning back in your chair and looking up. And that's that's how I remembered IMAX. And then going to see these, $22 movies or whatever in IMAX now, it's like that's not the same thing.
Well, now IMAX is more of a format, and it's more of an aspect ratio.
And I guess
deluxe.
it's a higher resolution than regular movies and 3D movies?
Probably. Yeah, I remember that IMAX that you were talking about because once I saw that too. I saw the climb of some mountain or something. I think it was El Capitan. It was like one of those. I saw it in Spain. And it was indeed one of those places where you have a little headset that gives you the sound.
Yeah.
And you sit on this kind of leaning back chair, and the screen is a big dome. So, that was also pretty amazing experience. But, yes, the IMAX 3D that I've been to here in Silicon Valley, it's also pretty cool. I mean, gosh.
Do you watch 3D movies, or do you just take the cut of, and just go to the regular flat ones?
No, I enjoy watching. Right now, I mean, the last few movies that I've seen on the theater, and I go back the last 5 movies that I've seen, they're probably on IMAX 3D if it's available.
Yeah.
Like Prometheus, The Great and Powerful Oz, and now Pacific Rim.
Yeah,
for
the
example.
big kind of summer blockbuster type movies.
Yeah. I will go check them out on the IMAX 3D and Star Trek Into Darkness. So I saw those.
Lord of the Rings or Hobbit movies, or
I have not seen The Hobbit on a theater. No, I saw it on the TV. I saw it on the Blu-ray.
I wanted to buy it, but I keep thinking they're going to make a director's cut, so I've waited to buy that.
Yeah, you're probably better off doing that because these things are always double dipping and triple dipping and quadruple dipping, and then you'll get The Hobbit 3 hours, and then The Hobbit 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And then The Hobbit 3 hours and 40 minutes with a little statue of the Hobbit.
Yeah. Or one of those trolls that turn to stone.
Yeah, or one of those trolls or something. I mean, like the white troll, the pale troll or something. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. Getting back to the thing we were talking about, yes, I'm going to get Next Testament this weekend, and I'll read it, and then we can discuss it as well on a future episode.
The first issue is kind of more of an introduction. The second issue kind of really gets the story started. So I appreciated that. And actually, I can say that now Hellraiser: The Dark Watch, the newest issue, I think it's 5. Explains a whole lot about what's going on and how did this happen with Harry D'Amour and it's all kind of narrated by Harry D'Amour, so it fills in a lot of those questions that I had. So I think that series is getting better right now too.
Yeah, we have to We have to consider doing like a series of episodes on the old Marvel comics, Hellraiser comics.
I'm hoping we can get to that this year before the year's out.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So let me just see if there's any other news that I would like to mention.
That was it for my notes. Oh, actually, there was one more thing that was just brand new, I think, today. Michael Plumides posted his Pelican. It's not his artwork, but the Pelican artwork for his treatment for the proposed Nightbreed TV show. Yes,
they posted this image done by this artist from Ill-Willed. Ill-Willed is it Productions?
Illwilled.com.
Right. Here it is.
Yeah.
So it's this artist called Tate Steinseek.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. I mean, you see Pelican, he's wearing like leather, and he's got like a Motorhead T-shirt, and
and he's got a Guar patch.
Didn't he also have like a Slayer written in there somewhere? Because I saw like a big resolution version of this concept artwork, and I think,
I've heard the complaint that about this because we've seen this art before, but we weren't really able to talk about it. At least not really openly, but now it's public. So there was a complaint from somebody that he felt that Pelican doesn't care about human culture, and I think that's kind of a mistake. I mean, I think that because he says Oz is over the rainbow, I think maybe he mocks it a little bit, but I think that what other culture is there to besides human culture? So, I mean, if you want to watch movies, you're not going to watch Nightbreed movies.
I think that there is really not much of a reason to think that Pelican feels that way about human culture or natural culture, like you would call it, because in the movie he doesn't really. There's nothing there that can tell you that, and in the comic books, it's not like that at all. I mean, in the comic books, he even enjoys like going out and hooking up with normal, natural women.
Yeah.
And I mean that, and it sounds kind of weird when you say natural, but that's just the definition between breed and natural.
Yeah.
So even here's music, drives cars.
Yeah. There's been a couple of plots where he had a girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, he got them pregnant as well. So.
Yeah.
And when one of his offspring is born, it's not a nice sight to see.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a lot of blood involved. But there's also, for those people out there who know about the Nightbreed comics, there were also 2 specials that came out on this magazine called Epic, which was I think number 1 and number 2. They have 2 Nightbreed standalone stories. So you should check that out. It's from the 90s, I think, and it's called Epic. That's the name of the comic book. Belonged to Marvel, and I think it was number 1 and number 2. They have like special standalone Nightbreed stories. They also have Jihad, of course.
Yeah, the Nightbreed Hellraiser crossover.
Yeah, and one good thing is that Michael Plumides is working on this TV show thing, and if everything goes well with the release of the Cabal cut and the hopefully the HD transfer of the theatrical cut. I mean, I guess if it shows that there's enough interest, I mean, the TV show will become a reality. And also he mentioned rebooting a comic book series.
Which would be terrific. And we don't know what the comic book would be based on, the TV show or the something else, continuation of the old comic books, or, just taking off where the movie left off, or...
Yeah, and if Hellraiser could get this comic book rebirth, which has worked so well, I mean, right now there's 30 comic books of Hellraiser? 30 issues, if you count the Dark Watch, Road Below.
And then Nightbreed has never been more popular than right now, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And it would also be a way for Clive to drain some of those ideas that he had for the future of the Nightbreed and put some of that to work in comic book form. I mean, I'm sure that, he could work with Mark Miller if they re-release like Nightbreed comic books. Who knows? I mean,
I wonder if this Midian Unmade anthology is sort of a litmus test for that comic book.
That sure sounds like it, right? I mean,
yeah.
It sure sounds like it, and it will be another thing that will add more interest and awaken more people to Nightbreed, because you might get someone who will end up like buying the anthology and say, "Oh, okay, Midian Unmade. I never read Cabal, but let's see what this is about." And then they'll read that, and then they'll be like, "You know what? I'm going to get Cabal and read it to see what these people are talking about." So it's all good. It all works for the common good, and if you got friends out there who like this kind of movies, just tell them about the Cabal cut. Get them to be on board with this project, because if it's a success, it's going to be great. Who knows? Maybe we can have like Nightbreed action figures.
Yeah.
I do know that I've been told recently that there's a company that has licensed the Dr. Decker mask for production.
Oh.
Yes.
From Morgan Creek?
Oh, well, I'm assuming they're going to license it. It's going to be through Morgan Creek, so...
Yeah, I guess so.
So it's going to be cool. Yeah, I got a source today that told me this, and so I'm,
Wow.
Yep.
Everybody can wear their Decker masks to the premiere of the movie, and then they'll be like, I can't see.
I just hope that, these things have a tendency to... Sometimes it's like bootleg articles are like done with more care than like mass marketed, things. Like when NECA came out with the Hellraiser box. Well, the truth is it was licensed, but it looked bad and it didn't last long before the panels all came out.
Yeah. And then it's like a horrible spiny weapon.
Yeah. And a lot of people are still out there doing like replicas of Hellraiser boxes, and I know that they're doing this illegally. They're doing this. Clive Barker has mentioned once that people who do these replicas, they're using my intellectual property. But the fact is, they're filling this niche, and fans will buy it.
Yeah.
So if you want fans to buy something legal, well, then make it good. Make it good. Make it a licensed product has to be good. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to be successful.
I was never really happy with the Screamin' box. It's $20, which is good. I mean, it's a good entry-level box for when you don't have any money. But it's 4 plastic panels that are black on one side and have the designs on the other, and you fit them together. You slide the sides together, and then you got a puzzle box, sort of. But
right.
It's lightweight. I dropped mine on the floor and it exploded. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I know. I mean, that's my point exactly. I mean, even though that box was on like Clive Barker's store, you could buy it through Amazon, and I think now it's gone. For good. I'm not sure, but I think it was gone from Amazon. Whoever was selling,
sure there's only so many of them before they're
right, because this is an old product.
It's like a 1992 product or something like that. Yeah.
So there are other alternative ways of getting boxes, which are done by people who make them. But like I said, the Clive Barker doesn't see a cent from those products. So it's up to everyone's like individual conscience to think, okay, do I want to do this? And if I do, can I afford it? And just use your conscience.
So,
but anyway,
I guess our next thing, I kind of have a low threshold for stupid stuff on the internet.
Okay.
So something that's been bugging me for a long time, and you and I kind of met on Roger's forum, and I felt like that the forum was a safe haven from the stupid comments that I was seeing, like that people were writing to Clive on Twitter. Yeah. And so anyway, now I'd like to do a section that we'll call the stupid comment of the week.
All right, go for it.
Or the dumb comment of the week. So this is the dumb comment of the week. Clive Barker had said, "I like to work. I don't like bars. I don't like clubs. I like to be at home working. I love my housemates. I love my dogs. I'm pretty dull. And I do that. I do think that the writing of a large imaginative work takes a kind of obsession and immersion in its reality to the point where the life lived outside its pages seems duller. Mm-hmm. And Joey Goodwin said, write the sequel to Cujo. So congratulations, Joey Goodwin. You got the dumb comment of the week.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Write the sequel to Cujo. Oh, so, my God.
Yeah, and that one's not... I mean, that one was like, what the hell? But a lot of them are irritating in a different way. They're like, why did you make Hellraiser Revelations? You're just a sellout. Or,
oh, is that a real one?
Yeah, I've seen that before, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention his name, but...
yeah, well, get a life.
I know. Yeah, so Clive Barker does not have anything to do with the sequels, except he helped write the stories for... he completely did number 1. He helped write the stories for 2 through 4. And that's it. But yeah. he didn't write the script or direct... And then from 5 onward, he had absolutely nothing to do with those movies.
Oh, another thing, still on the subject of Nightbreed, which is Russell Charrington posted a picture today on Occupy Midian.
Oh, yeah.
Of this fantastic movie prop that he owns. And if you like Peliquin, go there and check it out, because it's a photo of the Peliquin mask / mannequin that gets run over by a car in the film, and it's really cool looking. Yeah. I mean, it's a little busted up, which I'm guessing it's like 20-something years old. So
it probably only shows up in the movie for just a few frames, because it's the time in between when it's actually Oliver Parker,
yes,
and the car is coming, and then they switch it to that Peliquin that's kind of like got this look of like, oh God, a car's going to hit me, and then bam, and so probably just a few frames, and then he's sort of getting up and sort of wiping off the blood off of his mouth, and
and it's really cool, a cool photo. So go there and check it out. It's on the wall. Just scroll down until you find it. It's worth the time going there and so checking it out.
Today was Peliquin Day.
Yeah, today was Peliquin Day. We got concept art. We got a bust made by Image Animation, made in polyurethane. So that's pretty cool. And like I said, if you're going to write a story for Being Unmade, please don't use don't write a scene where Shunastasi and Peliquin are getting it on, because you're not going to be original.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of slash fiction with Peliquin and Shunastasi being sent to this.
If you're Nicholas Vince, you can write whatever you want. But otherwise, don't do that.
Yeah, please.
We're not authorities or anything. You don't have to listen to us, but.
Yeah. Well, someone raised an interesting question, which was Ben Winfield. I think he asked, "Oh, so I never read Nightbreed Chronicles, so I don't know the backstory for these characters.
Oh.
Do you suppose I should get it and read it before I write it, so I don't do any,
That's a tricky question.
So I stick with canon, and my reply for that was, and this stands for anybody who thinks that, I don't think Midian Unmade will be canon, but it depends on, of course, it depends on your own personal opinion. But I consider, things that are not from the mind of Clive Barker, that it will not be canon for Nightbreed. But of course, you're free to use it as canon. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and also he says feel free to use characters from Cabal or characters from Nightbreed. So those are two separate stories. I mean, with the Cabal cut, it's a much, much closer to Cabal than it was with the theatrical cut. But still,
exactly,
the characters are still different. Peliquin is different. It's just...
Kinski is different.
Yeah, I mean, and I plan on making my story original and vague enough that it will fit for both. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that everyone's going to do that, so I don't think it's possible for this. I don't think it's possible for this book to be canon.
Yeah, yeah. So just write whatever you want as long as you do your best. Just have fun doing it. Don't care too much about whether or not, am I writing a good Peliquin? I mean, it'll be your Peliquin, so just do whatever you feel is right.
Yeah. Yeah. So now on to the intelligent comments instead of the dumb comment of the week. So this is feedback from Facebook. Paul Fluitt said, I think I saw that Paul Kane has workout recently too, if you want to give him a mention. So there's a book called Sleepers that he just came out with.
Oh, fantastic. I also got news about his upcoming book, Hellraisers, which is going to be the interview book with the actors from Hellraiser. And it's just been put on hold for a while, so I guess whenever it comes back...
Is it like a clearance issue with the movie studio or something?
I'm not sure. I have no idea. All I know is that I think they're gathering money for the printing costs.
Oh, okay.
Like there's some kind of issue with the printer. They were looking for a printer. That's it. They were looking for a printer. The editor was looking for a printer. And I think they're still, finalizing that stuff. So it was supposed to come out like last year. Then it got postponed. And then it finally got put on hold indefinitely. I had it on pre-order, and it's not even available to pre-order anymore. So.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you were talking about Sleepers.
Oh, you can't pre-order it anymore?
No.
Well, do you think you'll still be able to buy it when it comes out?
Oh yeah, I mean when it comes out, I'm sure they'll have it for sale. I'm just saying that right now, because it's indefinitely on hold, that they suspended the possibility of pre-ordering it.
Oh, let's cross our fingers.
Yeah,
that book is definitely worth the wait. I wouldn't recommend people getting a refund. I think
No, I'm still waiting for it. I pre-ordered it, but I got this information from the author himself, Paul Kane, and he was like, well, they're still looking for a printer, and so we don't know when it's going to be.
And that must be frustrating for him, but I'm sure it's worth the wait. So
yeah.
So Paul Fluitt also says that Paul Kane is being included in Oz HorrorCon's Book of the Tribes. So that's pretty cool. You're included in there too.
Well, I'm included because I contributed to the possible campaign, so I should have my name show up in the Berserkers book, I guess. But I didn't really contribute anything in terms of artwork or stories like other people have done. Other fans.
I got you. Okay. I wanted to contribute, but I am cash poor right now. Yeah.
Well, also. If people were going to contribute like stories or something, then when Midian Unmade news came out, then I guess people are just saving their stories to use for a submission there.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So Mike Kwiatkowski says, is there a copy of the pilot for the TV show The Demonologists? Clive was working on it for a TV series, but it got dropped. Supposedly it was like Buffy meets Heart to Heart.
Oh, I've never heard about that before.
I haven't heard about that one either, and I which was surprising because we did a lot of research for projects that never, our 3-part series on projects that never were completed.
So what was that called? The Demonologists?
The Demonologists.
Oh, no, I never heard about that. That's weird.
The answer is no. I mean, there cannot be a pilot episode of that TV show. There's no way we wouldn't have known about that. But if there was a show, it might have only been a treatment or a script.
Well, I just checked Revelations while we were talking because I was curious about that, and it is in current TV projects.
Oh.
Yes, it is in current Demonologist. It says here, Variety reports that NBC Studios have plans to work with Clive on a TV drama which hopes to combine scares and comedy in the same breath. Written by Clive and Teddy Tannenbaum, credited on a recent episode of The Dead Zone, Demonologist follows the lives of a couple who fight demons with ease but are thwarted by the trickier problems posed by raising their 15-year-old daughter. And Chris Conti from NBC is quoted as saying, we're all trying to find ways to do family shows with characters that just jump off the screen. The brass ring of all brass rings is to do that comedic drama. It's a funny, spooky thriller in hopefully the good Hitchcockian tradition. If you can pull this off, you can scare the hell out of people and make them laugh at the same time.
What year is this post?
Variety, 6 October 2003. So it's been 10 years.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I missed it.
My opinion still stands. I think that there's absolutely no way that there's a pilot episode.
I don't know how we missed this one, but anyway, good catch. What was the name of this?
The Demonologists.
No, the name of the person who sent us this.
Oh, Mike Kwiatkowski.
All right, good catch, Mike. Because I had no idea. I never read about demonologists before.
Yeah. I mean, if there was a pilot episode, it would be available somehow. People would be talking about it. I think it was just another one of those things that failed to get started.
Probably, yeah.
Yep.
To be honest, I don't really like comedies and horror in the same thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of that.
Evil Dead.
Yeah, well, you got me there. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure.
Okay. Yeah.
It's in a genre all of its own, I guess.
Like Dead Alive or Brain Dead, I guess it's called in Europe.
Yeah, well, Brain Dead I didn't really like it much.
I didn't either, actually, to be honest. I mean, and a lot of people love that, and it's Peter Jackson and everything.
It just didn't do anything for me. I'm like watching some guy like turn a bunch of zombies into a puddle of goo with a lawnmower.
Yeah.
And it becomes so over the top that your brain just like, it's just like you don't feel anything watching it. It's just like, okay, this is just some guy in a studio corner, and they're like throwing like tomato ketchup.
It tells you in your mind that I'm not supposed to care about any of these characters.
Right.
Yep. Stephanie Iribaran says, I was wondering if there's any talk about another Jericho game. There was talk when the first game had just come out of making a sequel, but it never came to be. And I think it was Majesco Games, right? Are they out of business?
The developers of Jericho?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like Codemasters?
Codemasters. I'm sorry, that's what it was. It was Codemasters.
Right.
Aren't they out of business now?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. Let me just Google it up really quickly.
Jericho is great for Clive Barker fans, but for video game fans, it was a third-person shooter that didn't have multiplayer, even though it had 4 characters that were on the screen at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what hurt that game.
I think it had a rather ingenious way of playing, form of gameplay, which involved like jumping from character to character and using separate characters' different abilities to solve different levels. Like there was a level where you have to go through fire, like this kind of a fiery maze. So none of the other characters can walk in there except for that big guy with the
fire on his arm.
The fire on his arm,
yeah.
I think, yeah. So that guy has to jump in there and has to pull something, and sometimes you would have to activate some switch which was behind a wall, and you would have to use the possession telekinesis projection thing.
Yeah.
That you would have to possess some wraith on the other side of the wall and have him like activate the switch.
And while you're switching characters, the other ones are healing, which is nice. I love that game. I beat it over and over, and I got 1,000 points out of 1,000 on the achievements on Xbox Live.
Wow, I played it on the PC. I beat it like once, but it was a nice game. I mean, it took me forever because I think I was doing what most people did, which is what they missed kind of the point of the game, which afterwards I started changing my gameplay, which is I would just stick with one of the characters and I would just be using it over and over.
Yeah.
Mainly the big guy with a machine gun and the firearm.
Yeah.
So, and then as the game progresses, you start to realize you're better off just, being more flexible in the way that you use the whole team.
The story and the atmosphere and a lot of the gameplay were all really good. But the game had some problems. I mean, like the QuickTime events in it were not great. Like if you fall into a pit and you're supposed to hit like these buttons to climb out or whatever, and you miss it, your character just keeps on falling in the pit over and over and over until you get it right. So that sort of takes you out of the narrative of the story and the scary atmosphere and stuff like that.
Right, because you keep dying. And
yeah.
I wasn't. I didn't have a problem with quick time events. What I did have a problem was areas where the enemies just kept on spawning and spawning and spawning, and basically you were just like. One of the things that made it a little repetitive was that you didn't really have a limit on ammunition. Ammunition came like magically through the dimensional planes, and someone would just wave their hands or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it would be like, okay, recharging, and something happened, and you never ran out of bullets. So basically you were just like mowing down enemies, and they would just keep respawning and respawning and respawning. Until a time where you were like, okay, when can I move forward? And finally the enemies would die off and you could move.
Yeah.
I don't know if that had to do with the difficulty of the game that I chose, but it just would take forever.
I remember that.
But I enjoy the game a lot.
I played it on hard the last time so that I could get all the achievements.
In the beginning of the game, I had this tremendous vibe about Weave World.
Yeah.
And the city in the middle of the desert and all that.
In the empty quarter where the angel Uriel comes from in Weave.
Yeah. I wonder if Clive had some kind of connection going between those two things there, but in any case,
and rereading Weave World now, Immaculata is having dreams that connect her to the Scourge, which is you find out later is the angel Uriel. Mm-hmm. And in her dreams, she just dreams of sand and emptiness and nothingness. Yeah,
and we will get to that one like next week.
Yeah. I shouldn't keep talking about it too much.
We'll get to that one.
The answer is there's probably never going to be another Jericho game. I mean, there was Clive Barker's Demonic, and that didn't happen either.
I would like to see a sequel, but I think that overall, even though we enjoyed it very much, I don't think Jericho was very successful.
Yeah.
In terms of sales,
I think critically it did all right, but yeah.
But it wasn't like as big as like BioShock or
which the BioShock games, and Bobby does a voice.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I had no idea.
Yeah. I've been meaning... I've only played the demo of the first one, so I've been meaning to get those just because of that.
Oh, amazing. Go figure.
Yeah.
So, and I would love to see another Jericho, but I think the chances are slim. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And if what you say is true and Codemasters has gone under, then, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you really like Jericho, just go back and play it again. And it's the same with Undying. I mean, Undying is a great game. You can always go back and replay that because it's probably never going to get a sequel.
I wish that Undying could get updated. The graphics are kind of jarring these days. But...
Oh God, I know. I don't know if I can play it now because the Mac version. Is based on an old pre-Intel architecture.
Ah.
So, back when Apple was designing their own processors.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I probably couldn't play it anymore either. So let's see. The next one, Roger. Roger asks, Roger Boys, who's, used to be on the podcast with us, and he's one of the co-founders of Occupy Midian, and he runs the forum. He says, how about the current state of all the finished and almost finished books? So we talked about Scarlet Gospels already.
Mm-hmm.
I think Black is the Devil's Rainbow. The last thing that I heard was that Clive Barker was still supposed to put one story in it, and then it'll be ready to go. But I don't know when that's going to happen.
I think the only thing that we can say for sure at this point is what Clive Barker has reiterated several times, which is he will only pick up another book once he finishes Abarat.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much what he said, like more than once.
And
I think
he had said also that he wants to finish Abarat, and then next is the third book of the art. Then, and then Scarlet Gospels.
Yeah, well, oh God, I hope not, because I want the Scarlet Gospels to come out.
Yeah.
But if he's going to dive into the third book of the art, then, oh my gosh, no, that can't happen. If it takes just 6 months to finish Scarlet Gospels, then I can wait until the end of Abarat, but then he has to make like the Scarlet Gospels, because I cannot fathom him like finishing the third book of the arts in a time frame that would allow me to...
Well, you know, the Abarat books are getting to be as big as a book of the art.
I know, and Clive Barker has mentioned the other day that he's hard at work in the Abarat 5 volume now. So I wonder if that means that he's done like his first draft of the Abarat 4.
I think so. I think he was going back to the second draft.
But still, how many drafts does he usually do? I think it's like 3 or 4 drafts of each book, longhand.
Yeah. And I think, you know, he'll probably get Abarat 4 done in 2014. I think that we'll probably be getting that.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. So then maybe 2 years or, 2 years after that, it'll be Abarat 5. And, yeah, I mean, it kind of, it boggles the mind to try to think about it too much. I mean, I just try to enjoy things as they come.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't really finished reading Abarat 3. The motivation isn't there until I know for sure that the story is, like, completed.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, then if that were the case, then you wouldn't, I mean, with, like, the books of the art, you wouldn't read Everville.
Well, no, not really, because they're pretty much self-contained. I think that the books of the art are pretty much self-contained. Both Great and Secret Show and Everville. I mean, if you've never read Everville, you can perfectly just read the Great and Secret Show. There's an ending to the Great and Secret Show. I mean, Kisun supposedly dies, and the lovers are rescued from Quiddity, and they're on their way to recovering from those incrustations that they suffer from floating in the sea. So it has kind of an epi ending, and then, Tesla, Grillo, Raoul, they pretty much, of course, then Everville brought back some characters that we thought were dead, and some characters, expounded on some other characters. It showed us what happens to Raoul. It showed us Tesla.
And Joe Beth and Tommy Ray, and...
Yeah.
And there's a lot more of Harry D'Amour.
There's a lot more of Harry D'Amour as well, yeah. I mean, but again, when it ends, like the Everville at the end of the book, it's also pretty much self-contained. I never imagined that it would be a trilogy. I just imagined that was a sequel to The Great and Secret Show.
Except that he's been talking about it as a trilogy. I mean, and
yeah, but when you read the books, just reading the books, you don't really see that there's like any progression towards a final, third volume. I mean, pretty much he does a good job of wrapping up and making them standalone books, I thought.
Well, I mean, Great and Secret Show more than Everville. I mean, because you need... I think to read Everville, you really need to read the Great and Secret Show first, because those characters have all their backstory in there.
That's true. I said standalone, but Everville needs like the Great and Secret Show to for people to make sense of what is being said. But for example, I don't see them as open-ended as, for example, Galilee is. Mm-hmm. Galilee is an obvious part of a bigger story.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, geez, he even ends it with like a bunch of new characters being added to the end of the book, and there's this confrontation, and there's all this stuff that's gearing up to become this, great battle between the Barbarossas and the Giris.
Right.
And, let's see if Galilee will ever get a sequel, because I have my ideas about Galilee, and I think that I don't think it worked very well. but, it's probably one of my least favorite. But it's just the fact that I don't like open-ended books.
Oh, yeah.
I find them frustrating.
So that's kind of your issue with Aberrat right now?
Yes, that too.
It's progressing towards something and we're not getting there.
Yes.
We haven't gotten there.
You could say that. And the fact that I know that it's going to be at least 2 more books after 3 until it is concluded, then I'm like, I would rather wait, collect the books, and then as soon as I have the 5th book in my hand, I can just sit down, put a big jug of water next to me, and, a big box of...
Read the whole whatever you call it. Is that a quintet? 5 books?
I would say so.
Yeah.
A Pentateuch. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the Aberrat, they were originally the Book of Hours, and they were the Aberrat Quartet, and there was going to be 4 of them.
Yes. Back in the days where Disney was going to make a movie out of it. And possibly a theme park. And
and speaking of dumb comments, somebody, Clive Barker was talking about something totally different again, and some guy was like, yeah, you sold out to Disney. And he was going on and on about how Clive Barker sold out to Disney.
What is he trying to talk about? I don't even understand.
I kept on writing responses and then deleting them because I was like, do I really want to get involved in this?
Yeah. I don't even understand what he's trying to get to because...
I kept thinking the Disney deal didn't go through.
Yes,
there's supposed to be something else that's coming around for Aberrat, but
I don't even understand.
I mean, I kept thinking, what if there's a slight chance that I don't know what I'm talking about, and there is some kind of a Disney thing going on that I don't even know about?
I think you're pretty good. I think this is someone who obviously have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so I was talking about that, and yes, I would rather just read Aberrat from the 1st book to the 5th, and then say,
that would be neat.
So that's it. That's the story.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why, for example, another book that's like that is, for example, Cabal. But Cabal is okay. I like Cabal because it's a very satisfying conclusion, even though that's just the beginning of a larger story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is some sort of closure and some sort of
Yeah, it ends with a little hope.
Yeah, because the nature of Boone is that he's like a messiah, and the nature of the messiah is always that he's a savior. He's going to come again. He's going to return. Like Christ is going to be the second coming, and so Boone is also going to come and deliver them from the ashes of Midian. So you're like, okay, I can see it ending in that note. Of course, now we know that Clive originally intended to do like an extra couple of books.
And he was so let down by what happened with Nightbreed that he never wrote the other 2 books.
Yeah. Well, I just don't get what's so exciting about trilogies. I mean, I like single story books. I mean, I like standalone books. I don't understand sometimes why people feel the need to make a big arc.
I do kind of know what you're talking about because by the time Everville came out, it was like 1994.
Yeah.
And The Great and Secret Show, I think, was 1989. Mm-hmm. So that was like 6 years later, and I couldn't remember anything that happened in The Great and Secret Show when I was reading Everville.
Right. And when I was reading Aberrat 2, I guess I still remembered some things from Aberrat 1, but I found myself going back to it a lot. Yeah. And it happened more often even with Aberrat 3, and I was like, I don't even remember anything that happened in Aberrat 2, and I was like,
and I suppose if he wrote a book a year, one of those books every year, then it might be, then that would be a different issue, but he writes and rewrites and throws stuff away and until he gets it the way he wants.
So yeah, I mean, it was an exciting day today. We got news of a new book is going to be published, which is not exactly new, but it's
new for most people.
It's new. It's going to be new for me for sure because I've never read Chiliad. I've been
obsessively collecting short story collections that have stories that don't appear anywhere else, and that's the only reason that I have that.
I guess I was always expecting them to be collected in a volume someday, and I guess that was the idea. I mean, when the Scarlet Gospels was supposed to be a collection of short stories, including some new ones and uncollected
like
stories.
98 or something like that, or 97 when he first announced that.
Yeah. So I was always expecting that, okay, well, I guess I can skip on hunting down these things on eBay and buying a bunch of books with a lot of stories just for that single story.
Yeah.
It's
like when you had to buy CDs that had just one song that you wanted on them.
By the way, I bought recently this book that's a bunch of stories that was edited by Clive Barker, and he wrote an introduction to them. It's called Hard Shell. It's called Night Visions Hard Shell. Oh,
Night Visions was where the Hellbound Heart first appeared.
Well, yeah, Night Visions Hard Shell. On the cutting edge of terror. So the description for this is, on the cutting edge of modern terror, this innovative collection features new, exciting works by three of today's master storytellers, Dean R. Koontz, Robert McCammon, and Edward Bryant. They demonstrate their talents in nerve-shattering tales of the macabre. So this was edited and has an introduction by Clive Barker.
Oh.
Yes, and it was edited by, I think it was
published. Yeah.
It's a logo that's like a bee. My book, and here's the thing. My book that I bought it through Amazon, and I bought it used. And I guess I was being like cheap, and I was looking for penny books on Amazon.
Oh, sure.
And I found like a bunch of books, and I was like, okay, I'm going to pick all these books. And one of them was this Night Visions Hard Shell, which was supposed to be in good condition. The fact is, of course, that the cover is coming apart.
So, different people have different ideas of what good is.
And so I did read the introduction. It's very interesting. And I haven't read the stories yet. But, it's at least for reading, it's just perfectly acceptable. But I'm not going to keep it, of course.
Well, and I'd never heard that Clive Barker edited an anthology before. I mean, that's...
Yeah, it's from Berkeley Books. It's from 1988, August 1st, 1988. Wow. So it's coming up on 25 years, 25 years ago. And it's 279 pages. So Berkeley Books. It's original stories from Edward Bryant, Robert McCammon, and Dean Koontz. Yeah, and it's really interesting. I really enjoy the introduction by Clive Barker.
In 1988, that's when Clive Barker was kind of at the peak of his popularity, or he was still kind of on his way up.
Yeah, he was the enfant terrible of the fantasy, world fantasy, what was it called? World fantasy something. He got the World Fantasy Award at the time.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And Night Visions was where he first published the novella The Hellbound Heart.
Yeah.
So that was, my little thing about buying this book, and I bought that hardcover of The Thief of Always recently from Del Howison's Dark Delicacies store.
Oh yeah, that's great. That hardcover is I mean that really is the only edition to get, I think.
Oh, it's beautiful. I only had the paperback, which has that bluish cover that's painted. That's like
with
this
the kid running on the
I love that cover. But this one is also pretty neat because it's made by Clive Barker himself, and it's a wraparound cover. So you can take out the dust jacket, and you can just lay it flat on the table, and it's really, really cool. So I recently got this hardcover edition from Dark Delicacies, and it's signed by Clive Barker. So
that one I had, at one time I had like 4 copies of it because...
Wow.
Because I had my brother and Robert, a friend of mine, Robert, and... I think maybe my mom. No, I don't think so. I don't know. But they had this deal at the book signing in Seattle where for every copy of The Thief of Always that you bought, you could bring 2 books to get autographed.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling that story.
Yeah. I've done that before. I did that with Mr. Be Gone also. I bought a bunch of those and gave them away.
Yeah. So yeah.
And
that was.
Oh, it's our next comment. Chris Parks says, I've been wondering about the new Book of the Art and when it's coming out. So I guess we kind of answered that. It's going to come out after Aberrat sometime.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I mean, sometimes Clive has a way of, like, sneaking up on us.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, this new edition of Chilia just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And Mr. Be Gone came out of nowhere.
Oh,
I mean, nobody was expecting that.
Well,
I was
Aberrat came out of nowhere in a way. I mean, there was, there were these unfinished stories, the Books of the Art. People have been complaining about not finishing the Books of the Art since Everville.
Right.
So, and then suddenly he got this idea for Aberrat, and it's like Aberrat has been front and center since, 2001 or something? When was the first one?
2002?
2002, okay. Yeah.
I think. And then number 2 came out in 2004.
Yeah.
And then the third one came out in 2012.
Or 11, right? I think it was 2011.
11, okay. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So 2 years apart for the first two, and then 7 years for the next one.
I admit that I wasn't expecting Aberrat. I think I had no idea that Aberrat was coming when it came out. Yeah, I thought he was just working on films and he had a bunch of TV show projects and The Mummy and stuff. And I never expected Aberrat. I think I found out about Aberrat when I actually found Aberrat on the shelves.
Oh, really? Well, I kind of miss
so.
those days. I used to always just go to the bookstore and look through Clive Barker and and go, oh, that's Clive Cussler.
Yeah.
But
God.
Yeah, I miss that, because now you hear about a book like the Scarlet Gospels, you hear about it, and then it's been 10 years.
Yep.
I don't know if that's better or not.
Sometimes it's more frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, and he wants to. He starts writing something and he gets excited about it and wants to talk about it, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in our biggest, for all these years, our biggest source of information has been the Revelations website, where he's been talking about this stuff that he's working.
Well, I would just like to not end the episode without actually saying that in the beginning, when I was talking about the story that's going to take place in the Golgotha during the crucifixion, it's supposed to be called Grail.
Grail, right, yeah. And you've talked about that before, and it just was, we were all drawing a blank.
Yeah. And Clive Barker said on Twitter, I don't want to spoil the surprises in Grail, but it revises completely the accepted story of Christ. So, yeah, that's just my little throwback at the beginning of the episode. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Okay, I think that's it. We've kind of hit the end of our episode. So we managed about an hour and a half of not having a main topic.
That's just the way it is with us. I mean, I'm sure if we weren't actually recording an episode, we would still be just talking like we are right now. So that's the beauty of the podcast, I think. It's just coffee house conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of our speculation about the release of we have all we know are hints, so we have no idea what it's really going to be, and we're anxiously awaiting that announcement at Comic-Con. So stay tuned. Probably you'll hear it from us on our next episode.
All right. Well, next episode will probably be Weave World.
Yes.
And
we just need to get in gear and finish it.
Do our best to give you guys a good episode.
Yeah. All right. Okay, well, good night.
Good night.
Bye.
You can find us on the web at www.clivebarkercast.com. We're on iTunes and all other places where podcasts are aggregated. We're on Facebook. On Facebook, you can find us on the Occupy Midian group, and join us there. We're on Twitter at BarkerCast and at Occupy Midian. And the forum is www.clivebarkerfans.com/forum, and the theme was by Colin Lakativa.